live on. So we're live on Facebook. Um, just gonna have a conversation. Tonight we're gonna be sharing a little bit about the Karmelo Anthony case. Couple of things. We cannot say pew pew. I am going to be going live. I mean, we cannot say gun. We cannot say knife. We cannot say murder. And we cannot say kill. You don't have to say pew pew, poker, and unalive. You hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You cannot say murder, gun, knife.
On TikTok. Once I go live on TikTok. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll hear
Yes,
me.
ma'am.
You'll hear me with my terminology. So you can grasp what's being said.
Okay.
So I'm getting ready to go live on TikTok. We are live on Facebook. So if you want to introduce yourself to the people on Facebook, YouTube, Kick, and Twitch, you can go ahead and do that while I go live over here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, listeners and viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Cool Podcast, which is a podcast show brought to you by Angela Thomas Smith, a visionary and author, a Shine Authors magazine. Thank you for tonight's show. Tonight's show is about an individual case, a Karmelo Anthony case that we will be visiting. And tonight we will be talking about his situation. So my name is Cornell Drummer. I am a co-host of Let's Talk About It and the founder of the Free Seconds Campaign. And tonight, as I said, we will be talking about this case and we will be shedding light on the facts and circumstances surrounding this case. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. And tonight we're going to have a good show.
But we are live on TikTok now, so we can go ahead with the conversation.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us again tonight. And tonight we're going to talk about the case of Karmelo Anthony. And we're going to shed light on the fact that this case has taken the turn for the worse from the beginning of the offset of the case. And we're going to show you tonight that the Collins County District Attorney's Office has failed to the law to be applied to the facts of this particular case. And that this individual, Karmelo Anthony, is being victimized by the system who fails to acknowledge that the law has to be applied all the way around, not just in part, but in whole. And in this particular case, we are going to show you that this individual either had a right to self-defense or a right to stand his ground. And with this facts, I'm going to show tonight that the law applies in this case and that the DA is failing to recognize this. Karmelo Anthony was an individual who just happened to be walking one day and, it was raining, so he somehow seen a tent, okay, and he went to go get shelter. And while he was there, I guess some other individuals were there, and, somehow or another, one of the little individuals who were there, felt that he shouldn't be there.
So let me interject because there's going to be a lot of people that hear this and they tune in. So a lot of people have seen the video. Have you seen this video?
No, ma'am, I have not seen
this video. You are just, what will you be relying your information on?
Okay, ma'am, that's a good question, ma'am. Okay, based upon a lot of the opinions and circumstances given by others' opinions related to some of the facts in the case, we're only assuming that this particular incident took place because the little individual who was there went to go get other people, and they came back. And this is where the fear for Karmelo Anthony occurred, that he felt threatened for his life and for his safety. And this is where the incident occurred because the other three individuals were not there at first. And they could not have known that Karmelo Anthony was even at this tent unless they were notified or informed by somebody who had to be at the tent to know that he was there. And they came in to, and tell him that he could not be there. And this is where the altercation occurred now. So those facts are coming from basically an opinion. So hopefully, the facts will pan out that the video footages will show exactly what we're saying as of right now that occurred, man.
So, a lot of people are saying that it's not self-defense and that he could have walked away and all types of things. But as they go by and things begin to progress, other things are beginning to come to light. Like for example, someone pulled the poker out. If they left the poker in, he may still be here. Just different
Okay.
things is happening. But everybody want to say that if he not pulled the poker out, if he not had the poker, none of this would have happened. But if they kept their hands to themselves, none of this would have happened. If they not been
Okay.
bullies, if they not been trying to tell that man what to do, none of this would have happened. But what did Texas say?
Okay. That's a good question, man. According to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, which is the highest court in the land, it separates the issue of what we call self-defense and the issue of stand your ground. Okay, the issue of self-defense typically, let me make sure I got this correct. Okay, yes, okay, defense, justification. It says that according to the Texas Penal Code annotation 931, a non-deadly force self-defense statute, a person is justified in using force against another when and to the degree that person reasonably believes the force is immediate, necessary to protect themselves against another person's use or attempted use of unlawful force. Okay, now under the penal code, it also states that a person is justified in using deadly force if he would just be justified in using force under the penal code, and he reasonably believes a deadly force is immediately necessary to protect himself. And that is basically what happened in the Karmelo Anthony case. He had no idea that these guys was coming for him because he has not committed no crime. He was not in the process of committing a crime. He was not doing anything wrong, and he was minding his own business. And based upon the stand your ground law, these are issues that are injected into the law that states that he did not have to retreat from the process of leaving the tent to protect himself. And matter of fact, because of the fact that they came and threatened him, a crime was being committed by them with the intent to cause him harm. So justification is there. And the district attorney's office, Collin County District Attorney's Office, should have applied the fact that justification was there and presented a no-bill indictment for self-defense.
Well,
instead, he did not do that.
Well, and that's another issue because we're finding out a lot of stuff about that, and even perhaps the judge that is going to be over this case, finding out that no, the DA. Matter of fact, I think the lady said the DA that's over this case got some SA charges out of his office. And yeah, she was talking about that on the last panel. She lived right there in Texas. She said she lived 30 minutes from where this took place at, and just on there, just sharing. She was just on there just sharing. She'd been there, and just like I was posting in the comment section, this is not something new to Texas, and people that live there, those people that live there know that this is corruption is something that has always gone on in Texas, and you got so many people that's on the outside of Texas looking in. They don't know what goes on. They just trying to apply a law. They don't know what goes on. They don't know how corrupt that Texas is. People want to know if these people had, just like the lady said. She said if they had anything on Karmelo, she said, don't you know they would have been blasting it all on the TV? They would have been on drug this man. They would have been had it all on TV because that's what they do. That is what they do. They always do that. They always, when they find something out on us, they spread it all over the TV. They blast it on the TV. They don't have nothing on this baby. That's why they can't blast it on TV. Just like that man just said on that phone the other day. He told me that them people planted another case on him while he was incarcerated, and now he's being charged with another case. And that's what's going to happen to this baby. They trying to trump up some more charges. They trying to build another case, build up some more charges so they can charge him with something because they want to charge him with something, but they ain't got nothing to charge him on. His parents them ain't letting him go nowhere, so he ain't getting out there in them streets so he can go out there and get into nothing. So these people working overtime, they don't messed up. That DA don't messed up because he don't bit off more than he can chew, and now he don't know what to do. So now what can Karmelo Anthony and them do? What can the people do? Because evidently there's not going to be a fair trial, no matter what these people say. There's not going to be a fair trial in the state of Texas. We know that. We look at how the state of Texas, and I'm not going to give statistics because I was on the panel yesterday and the lady told me that I was giving out the wrong number. So I'm not giving out numbers. I'm not going to give out numbers, but I know for a fact, and you can back me on this, that Texas lead the nation in exonerations, wrongfully and overly incarcerations, and executions. Am I right or wrong?
You are absolutely right about that, ma'am. And because of that, ma'am, a lot of people are being given the wrong shake of the by the law. Okay, Camilo Anthony's family and his supporters can do two things, ma'am. They can file for number one for this case to be dismissed. And how and why? Okay, self-defense again. In 2007, the deadly force self-defense statute provided for a general duty to retreat, which means that under the Texas law, that under self-defense you had a duty to retreat. Okay, now that duty was all removed from the statute in September 2007, and stand your ground law provisions were added. So now we got stand your ground divisions coming in, taking over the self-defense statute. So what are the provisions for that? Since then, it has been explained that the inclusion of the general duty to retreat instruction is erroneous and constitutes an improper comment on the weight of the evidence. So in this particular case, the current stand your ground law amendments provide that an actor has no duty to retreat if the actor had a right to be present where the deadly force was used, did not provoke the person against whom the deadly force was used, and was not engaged in any criminal activity at the time of the commission of the offense. The other amendment states that a jury may not consider a person's failure to retreat if he had no duty to retreat. In this particular case, Mr. Anthony had no duty to retreat because he was just basically standing under a tent trying to stay out of the rain. He was not committing a crime, didn't have no intent to commit a crime, and was on a public place, ma'am. Nor did he provoke anything to happen. Now, when it states that a crime was being committed, the crime intentionally and knowingly was being committed by the individuals to which Anthony used deadly force on, because they came to him with intent to commit a crime against him, and he defended it himself. So as of right now, his family and the public can seek a motion to dismiss this case by using the law of stand your ground, because he stood his ground and did not have to retreat. It didn't matter if he had a knife or poker or whatever he had, man. Excuse me, my bad. I apologize for that. It did not matter whatever he used to defend himself with. The issue is that he defended himself against the immediate threat of harm to be committed against him. And the district attorney's office is taking this case overboard by taking false information to the grand jury to indict him for M1. So as of right now, we want that indictment to be dismissed based upon the simple facts of this case, that the facts prove that he is justified and that he did not have to retreat and that he acted it in good standing to defend himself, man.
Okay, so I hear that sounds good, but we hear that we hear so much. We've been hearing a lot concerning this case. So with that being said, how can, because I really honestly don't think that he's gonna get a fair trial because of everything that's going on. You got panel after panel after panel after panel, and then the dad's jumping on panels. You got the mom jumping on panels. You got the brother jumping on panels. You got different people jumping on all these panels, and the jury pool is being tainted. It is being tainted, so he is not going to get a fair trial. And then we look at how do they determine the 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 um the the people, the indictment, the people that bring the indictment, the court that bring the indictment, how do they just determine the people that brought this indictment upon them? How did they draw who was going to sit in that room? Because I know the defense lawyer was not welcome and the defense was not welcome. So how did they determine who was going to sit in that room? And do you think that that was something that maybe the district attorney walked over there and had somebody to sign off on? Because from my understanding, I hear people say on these panels that if you can, a ham sandwich can get indictment. So if a ham sandwich can get an indictment, that means anybody can get an indictment. So please explain that so that people like myself that really don't know nothing about the law, how can we grasp and get an understanding, a better understanding?
Okay, because a grand jury is a makeup of the cross section of our community, ma'am. And this is where people are to be convicted by members of their peers, ma'am. A grand jury is a secrecy of the grand jury, which means that they panel don't have to be exposed to the public of what evidence is presented to them. But in the state of Texas and according to the law, his defense attorney, my defense attorney, is the one who have to ensure that all of the evidence goes to the grand jury. Why? Because the prosecution, even though it has the latitude in presenting what evidence it feels is necessary for his case, my attorney have the power and the same duty to ensure that all of the evidence is presented to the grand jury so that the grand jury can make a rational decision in how to indict this case. And if there is any evidence from any source that can prove that Mr. Karmelo Anthony or anybody should be no bill based upon the facts of what the grand jury see, then they should be no bill, as opposed to being true bill by a grand jury. So now to determine who is to be sitting in the grand jury, that is a secrecy of the grand jury that we do not have access to, but we can get a makeup of the racial makeup of the jury to determine who sit in the grand jury because of the exemption of private information, ma'am. So that's where we are with that. So we can seek a makeup of the makeup of the grand jury. We just can't get them to give us exactly the evidence that they presented it, ma'am. Only an attorney can do that.
So right now, as a community, how can we rally behind Karmelo? Because we see what is happening. We see what it is becoming. We see what has happened in the past, and we see because we see what happened in that case that we were talking about. Individuals was just talking about that same case. I think it happened in 2022 where there was a YT individual that attacked a Hispanic individual and unalived him. Yet he get a slap on the wrist, and it here we want to throw the throw Camilla up under the bus, and then we want to drive the bus over him. They did nothing but slap this child on the wrist. They didn't publicize it. They didn't say nothing about it. But yet they putting this on everything. Every time, every channel you flip to, you go scroll through any platform, you're gonna hear about what is going on, and this should not be what's going on. And then the dad is on here making a complete asinine fool of himself because he's truly showing his colors. He's truly showing who he is. And then they saying, "Oh, he's under distress." Oh, yeah, he's under distress. But when Rodney Hinton is under distress, oh, he just outrageous, just another typical BK person. And these are the things that they throw around, And we're tired of the stereotypes. We are tired of the stigmas. We're tired of them giving us the short end. Let we talk about all these different things that is taking place, and yet they think we always the one with the handouts. They don't understand that we work for what we want. Like when y'all tell us that we can't have this and this, we ain't no good and we can't do that and we can't do this. Y'all, when y'all told us that, we began to learn how to get stuff on our own. We don't need y'all. And that's the thing about it. And the fact that we don't need y'all, it become a problem. And then it becomes issues. And then it's always a competition. Never knowing that you will never be able to compete with us. Ever. Ever.
Okay.
And people don't
Okay.
understand that.
Okay. So in this particular case, ma'am, the issue is who went to the grand jury. Okay. The criminal investigator who's investigating this case, when he investigated the case, all of the facts that he developed had to be presented to the district attorney's office.
Mm-hmm.
The district attorney's office then, in turn, presented whatever information he gave him to the grand jury. Now, Mr. Karmelo Anthony, if he had a defense attorney, his attorney had the right and the duty to find out through a motion for discovery what that evidence was before the case even went to the grand jury. Mm-hmm. And he could have had an examining trial before the case went to the grand jury. But the district attorney's office withheld all of the information from the Karmelo Anthony family and defense attorney in order to present the case to the grand jury. Mm-hmm. So when he done that, he presented a one-sided case to the grand jury, leaving out a lot of the facts. Mm-hmm. So as of right now, we need to know who went to the grand jury and what evidence was presented to the grand jury, because we can file a motion seeking for the grand jury minutes to be released just in case we have to go to a jury trial. And we can rebuttal and impeach any evidence that was presented to the grand jury. As of right now, that's number one. Number two, we can either ask for a change of venue if we feel that we will not get a third chance in Collins County, based upon all of the publicity, all of the threats are being made, and all of these types of things. If we can ask for a change of venue from that county, if we should feel that the judge is biased and the prosecutor and the district attorney's office will somehow or another manipulate a jury in this particular case to seek and get a guilty.
Well, the dad already said that he's friends with these people. He know these people, and I mean, we already know that it's going to be tainted. We that is known. It's not a if. It's not if. It's when they gonna say that it's tainted, because it's tainted. Because you can come on social media and sit in on some of these lives and sit in on some of these panels and just listen to some of the conversation. It's tainted, and it's going to be tainted. He is never going to get a fair trial in the state of Texas. Never. Never. When he should never be, he should even never be on trial, period, point blank, period. Anyway, they already know through this child. This is a child that was going to a track meet where he had the right to be there. One of those twins didn't even have the right to be there. I don't know which one it was, but one of them did not have the right to be there. He was not on the list. He shouldn't have even been there. Probably the one that caused all the problems. The one that's probably the one that's still here. Well, I don't know, because I ain't watched no video. I don't know. I just sit in on the panels and I just listen. And I just listen to these people. And it's they have made it, so many people have made it about race instead of about the facts, because people don't want to accept the facts. They don't want to accept the fact that these individuals, and from my understanding, they were not all YT kids. There were some BK kids out there too. So there was BK kids out there. They was all up under the canopy, because it wasn't a full tent. And people say this: everybody had the option to walk away. Okay, they did, but they didn't. So we moved past that. They did not move. They did not walk away. Why? Because all of them probably felt privileged. And just keeping it real. We talking about some YT kids that you look at their pictures. They walk around with with what you call poo-poos and all kind of stuff, and they was out. They hunted. They did all kind of stuff. But then they want to make the BK kid out to be this horrible kid. But this child worked. He worked 2 jobs. He was trying to make a living for himself, and he was going to school. They don't think about all of that. Every brown person that you see is not out here to take nothing from you, not out here to destroy the world. Like some of us, we believe in making a legacy and leaving a legacy for ourselves. Like we want to have something. Like we don't just sit around and think of ways that we can come against y'all. No, we trying to live too. Like people just don't understand. They don't understand. We don't look at color. Color is not a thing that run through our veins like that. Look at most of our families first family. As bad as people don't want, we got all different races. Like literally, like how can I hate somebody when my nephew, like my nephew look just, come on, please, like come, like you mean everything in the law. This child falls under everything that say this boy stood his ground. Like he himself exactly what he did, and the fact that nobody likes that is sad.
Okay, ma'am. Just because you stated that, you're absolutely correct on that. So now, what we want to go back since he's already been indicted and get access to the police report that was written by the criminal investigator that went to the justice of the peace in order for them to establish probable cause to go ahead and present this case to a grand jury, to the district attorney's office, to the grand jury. Now, if the police report that was written excludes valuable information that this consider that report, then we are asking for lack of probable cause and the indictment to be dismissed for insufficient evidence based upon lack of probable cause. Because that's the only way that a grand jury can indict you if they find probable cause to indict you. So that information has to come from the initial offense report written by the criminal investigator. So what we want for them to release a copy of his initial report. Because as we assume, these other 3 individuals somehow or another came later. And that, like I said, we are assuming that one of these individuals went and got them and pointed out to them that look, Karmelo Anthony was under this tent to where he was getting out of the ring. That's what we're assuming. But if that information was a fact, then that information should have been presented and written in that report to show that the intent to commit a crime come from the persons who Anthony defended himself against. And that he was not committing a crime. So this is what we're asking for, a copy of the initial written offense report or incident report that was presented to the justice of the peace, that was presented from there to the district attorney's office, and presented from the district attorney's office to the grand jury. And either presented to Karmelo's defense, that he could have rebutted that. So that's what we're asking for initially. So if that information was not included in there, then we're asking for this case to be dismissed based upon the lack of probable cause to indict Mr. Karmelo Anthony.
Hey, Shanette.
Before we go to jury.
Shanette. Hey. I can't hear you.
You have 1 minute left.
I can't hear you, Shanette.
Okay.
All right.
The caller has hung up.
Shanette. Okay, I don't know what happened to her. Maybe she'll come back. Shanette is one of the hosts over here. She jumped on, so. I was about to bring her up. I had to get some plug up to get some juice, y'all, because my battery was going dead. But yeah, So, what are y'all thoughts for those that? Hey, Facebook, who's that? Let me see. Let me see who that is. Shanette. She must have take a phone call, y'all. She must have to take a phone call. Now I got a phone call, y'all. Hold on a second.
To accept this free call, press 1. To refuse this free call, thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Shanette must have had a phone call.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Well, yes, ma'am, that's basically what can happen, ma'am, in this particular case before we even go to a jury.
Okay.
And that the judge in
No
this
third-party
case,
calls are allowed.
okay, and that the judge in this case, ma'am, has the power right now to dismiss this case at a pretrial hearing, which means that this is 30 days after the indictment and before a jury trial.
So the indictment just came down. So the indictment just came down.
Okay.
I don't think it's been a week or so. Maybe it's been a week. Not sure. It just came. It's not been 30 days. I know that. But
Okay.
so what are the options? What can he do? What can the public do? Because I think the public is what's going to make a difference in this case, because there is a lot of people seem to be invested in this. I'm saying every channel you go to, there's a live going on, and you got several people on panels. You got people on panels. You got people, just lined up to talk. And you got people in the comment. Um, so it's a lot of people that's invested, and then there's people that's not even in Texas, that's invested in this. So it's a sad. This is a sad case. Understand that that family is grieving. That man is making he just going around here just doing whatever, and everybody want everybody to feel sorry for him and say, oh, people provoked him. People, you know regardless, you shouldn't even be putting yourself in that place. How is that okay for them to be parading around on these social media sites, and they have an open case? There's an open case. The case is not closed. People think because an indictment has come down that's it, that the case is over. Like, they have thrown Karmelo up under the bus. They think that's the end all to end all. So please explain, what does this mean? What can be done next, and all of this stuff? Like,
Okay, ma'am. You have just identified something that everybody's not looking at, ma'am. You just said that this is an open case, which means that all of the information is available to the public. And because all of the information is available to the public, anybody can go to the police department under the case number, get the case number, which is the incident report number, and ask for a copy of any statements that were written, made, or given to any criminal detective in this case. Now, each of the three guys who survived this, they gave a statement to the police or the criminal investigator. And that statement has to outline the facts in this case to determine if whether or not a crime was being committed against Mr. Anthony or whether or not he committed a crime. And this is where the facts have to come from. So the public got access to that information because this is a public trial, a public case. So with that, we can get access to those reports, and we can use those reports to determine what information did go to the grand jury. And if we can see the grand jury, we are the public. We can take this case to the judge of this court and ask the judge of this court to assign us a special prosecutor and to have this case dismissed based upon the lack of probable cause and insufficient evidence. So that's where we have to start. We have to go back to the beginning, man, to beat this case before it even go to a jury. We're not even trying to go to no jury because we see that the district attorney's office has favors with the grand jury. I mean, with the jury and the grand jury. So we're asking for anybody listening to this podcast to contact the police department, get access to the name of the criminal investigator, and get access to the case number, which is the incident report number, and ask for copies of the incident report written by him and any statements that were given by any witness to this case to determine what information was presented in those statements. And if it shows that a crime was being committed by the persons to which Anthony defended himself, we are using that information to ask that this case be dismissed based upon false information being presented to the grand jury by the district attorney's office. And that's where we have to start, man, from the beginning. Because it's obvious that the prosecutor rushed this case to get an indictment.
Yeah, he's up for election. He's up for re-election.
Okay. Well, he rushed this case and got a true bill indictment. It's a difference in just getting an indictment. He got a true bill indictment stating that all of the facts presented to him and the grand jury were true. So now, how do we dispute that? Well, we go and get a copy of the same reports that he got that was presented to him by the criminal investigator, and we read them ourselves. And if we see that based upon those statements, that certain information was withheld from the grand jury, then we can demand for this case to be dismissed. And it will be dismissed because the law will override any judge, any district attorney, or anybody in this case, man. That's all we have to do. But we have a right to a pre-trial hearing simply because the case has been indicted. We can do it that way, or we can right now file a motion to dismiss this case based upon the lack of probable cause, man.
I was trying to get Shanette up. I don't know what happened. I see she's back. Let me see if she want to come up. I'm trying to see if Shanette want to come up. I don't know if she can come up or not. I sent her an invite.
Okay.
She might not can come up. Go ahead.
Okay, here's a case right here too where it's stating about the sufficiency of evidence. Okay, and it states he further argued that he was denied the opportunity to testify before the grand jury and was improperly convicted of a crime to which he did not commit. See, so these are the important issues to which we're talking about.
What? Okay, now that we have the indictment for M1, we have possibly tainted jury. We have a possibly corrupt DA because we, of course, know that is a pattern in Texas. For the last 2-3 decades, we look at the amount of people that are wrongfully and overly incarcerated in the state of Texas, and we look at the color. It's all speaks for itself. It's nothing that nobody's making up. But yet, what can we as a public do to let this district attorney know that this is not acceptable? We will not stand for this. And, he's up for re-election. And I feel like this was done because he's up for re-election and he wanted to reassure the people that, hey, you got the right person in office. Go ahead and vote for me. This is what we done. But not knowing that, people knowing that this case could drag out. And of course, then what happens now? He no rush to got this. What's the name? It took. I think they said 83 days for them to indict.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so here's what the issue is with that part right there. Once the district attorney file an indictment or get a true bill indictment, then everybody has a right to a trial to be convicted by members of their peers. Now, mind yourself, the indictment has already been presented based upon whatever evidence and information he presented to the grand jury.
Right.
So now, because we know that he's up for re-election and that he's using this case as a pawn to try to advance his stance on showing the public that he's hard on crime, then our thing with that is that we're asking for a special prosecutor to be in this particular case and that he be dismissed from this case based upon the fact that he has presented this case in part, or presented false information to the grand jury within 83 days in order to get an indictment. So mind yourself, 83 days, okay, ma'am, that's not even enough time according to a murder, whatever they call these cases, M1.
Murder.
That's not enough.
M1.
That's not enough. Yes, ma'am, that's not enough time, ma'am, to do anything because Mr. Karmelo Anthony has to have the right to an attorney. Yet the courts appoint him an attorney in order to be able to object to the indictment being presented.
Well, he has an attorney. He has an attorney. Everybody say that he has applied for the indigent, but that was done when he first went in on April the 2nd. But he has a private attorney. So we have been told again. I don't know because again, I haven't been diving into either side. I've just been sticking to the law. I've been not diving into what people have and what they don't have. I've just been sticking to the law in the case. So I don't know. From my understanding, from what I've heard, um, he has a paid defense team. So I think that there's more than one lawyer. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure. It may be a law firm and they have different lawyers assigned and different things assigned. I'm not sure, but from my understanding, he has a team, a defense team.
After the fact, we speaking before the fact.
Before the fact, he had nothing. I think there was nothing until they got until they hired that lawyer that was able to get bond. So when right before that is when they acquired him. The rest of the time, I don't think from April the 2nd up until he was bonded out, I don't think he had a lawyer, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, ma'am. Well, that would be an issue too within itself. So if he was arrested for the offense and the judge did not immediately give him counsel in order to defend himself against the allegations or plead.
Well, Cornell, they just approved the indigenous package on April the 2nd, which I think was the day that he was arrested. He applied for the indigenous packet. That's what the records show, but it was just approved. So no, he would not have had he would not have had representation because it was not approved until here lately, and he has a lawyer now.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I understand that. You're absolutely right. If the courts disapproved him of having, the appointment of counsel based upon his finances, then yes. But the court judge himself should have allowed Mr. Anthony to opt. That's why the district attorney indicted him so fast. To keep Mr. Anthony from obtaining counsel in order to defend against the indictment. And that this way it gave him enough time to present.
But I think he had counsel. He had counsel because he was out. He was out before the indictment came down. The indictment, remind you, the indictment just came down within the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, as of right now, then, what we have to do then to go back and retract the grand jury and the arrest warrants, ma'am, in order to beat this case. That's what we have to do. And to file a petition asking for this district attorney to be taken off of this case, why? Because of his stance on trying to seek re-election and using this case as a pawn to try to get his stance on re-election. And we can make a request for a special prosecutor and have this whole case reviewed again and ask to dismiss this indictment right now. So that's what we have to do.
And who has the authority and who has the power to do that?
Okay. The judge, whenever a case is filed by a district attorney, it gets a case number. It gets a criminal case number, and that criminal case number is filed with a district court judge. That district court judge has jurisdiction over that case. So now anything filed has to be filed with that district court judge under that case number. So what we're doing, we're asking for this case to be dismissed on a motion to dismiss or a motion to squash the grand jury's indictment under that case number to that judge. And we're asking for a hearing to be held before jury trial on this case. But it has to be filed with that judge, and we want a ruling on the motions to be held before this case go to trial. And our reasons for having the case dismissed is because, number one, he was justified in defending himself. Number two, he stood his ground. And that there's insufficient evidence that was presented to the grand jury to indict him under a true bill indictment, when in fact there's evidence to rebuttal the state's theory that Mr. Karmelo Anthony committed an offense against them, as opposed to them committing the offense against him. So this is why we're asking for this case to be dismissed. And the law supports you. It supports you. So the judge would have to hold a hearing under pretrial to determine if whether or not Mr. Anthony was justified. And that information comes from the police reports, the statements of the witnesses who gave their statements. That's where the facts are going to come from to determine if whether or not this was M1, self-defense, or stand your ground, man.
Either way, he had the right to defend himself. And either way, I hear a lot of people saying in the comment section that, if he's going to prison, he's going to prison. If he do go to prison, he shouldn't get that much time. But I just don't see him going to prison. I just don't see it. And if it is, we definitely know what it is, because they always trying to mess up our children's lives. Known fact.
Well, in an appeal, ma'am, anything that takes off from this case, we're going to appeal. Okay, so the appeal would have to be based upon the insufficiency of the same evidence for which we're talking about. We're asking for this indictment.
So who can make the appeal? It has to be the lawyer?
Okay, once he gets convicted for this case,
why do we have to wait till he's convicted? Why we can't do something now? Like, what can we do now?
That's what I was pointing out to you. We can right now go and file a motion in the court asking for this case to be dismissed right now.
Anybody in the public can do that?
It has to be signed by his attorney. It has to be signed by the attorney. So the attorneys in this case can do that based upon the facts showing that it was justified or stand your ground. And that little Anthony did not provoke nobody, he was not committing no crime, and that he had a right to be in the place to which he was. And he had that. So because he has that, his lawyers should file those motions right now and get a hearing on these motions, as opposed to letting this case go to a jury. You don't have to go to no jury, because this is a publicity case now.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, the daddy is wearing out social media. He's on here every night because, on especially over there on TikTok, they have this thing where you can make money. People send you coins, and they send your likes up, and over 1 million likes on these platforms, and he's going from platform to platform and getting people to send them coins and send stuff. So they over there racking up. They racking up on these platforms. And they over there every night. He over there every night. I'm talking about they was over there for 8 to 10 hours. This dude had over 1 million views over 1 million views. And I'm talking about people were sending, they was hitting the hearts, they was sending the coins, they was doing whatever over there, just running Anthony up under the bus. And making us BK people look like we was nothing. And then you had some of us over there just patronizing this person too. Like this person, like I mean, they I don't understand people. I just really don't. Like right is right and wrong is wrong, and two wrongs will never make a right. So I don't care
Okay.
how you twist it. You know,
Okay. You're
if
absolutely right, man.
they never approached that boy, never tried to bully him, whatever, however they tried to come at him about not being in the tent, you should have went and got an adult. That's what we did when we was in school. Like these kids think they run something, they think they own something. That white privilege is just known. That white, that WT or YT or whatever, that privilege don't went to their head. Especially since they done ran up in that capital and did what they did and got away with that. When and what's going on now, that current administration, people think they can do anything. But I'm telling you, we are not our ancestors. I'm telling you. Try me if you want to.
Okay. Well, you just identified how to beat that case, man. Do you know that? You just identified it. You're stating that these individuals came to him. And because of that fact right there, he's justified. That's what the point is.
I mean, you see, and then not only that, you see one of you see one of the folk that walked up on him. You see him pacing up and down the stairs, walking up and down the stairs. Okay, so if you could walk up and down the stairs, you had no business over there where you had no business going to the commotion. If you can walk up and down the stairs, you could have walked away too. But you went over there too. You was a part of that too.
Okay, thank you. So let's apply the law to that. The law states that you have 3 to 5 seconds to think before you commit a crime. So if he walked up and down them stairs, he had enough time to think and to realize what he was going to do. Therefore, he was intentionally and knowingly going to commit a crime against Karmelo Anthony.
But he didn't know what he was. He didn't know. He went. He was following along with the rest of them because they said, "Come on, let's go." I mean, if you look at the video, you got to understand. You got to look at the video and see the video and see what happened, and then you got to listen. You got to see what's going on. You know, and then we look at not just we look at all the unfair stuff that has happened in the state of Texas. It's never gonna be right. You look at why James Gates still sitting in prison. You look at why some of these other people that's sitting in prison is sitting in prison. It ain't just him. I mean, you look at the statistics. Statistics never lies. It's in black and white. That's why I tell people, if you want to remember something, you want something to be embedded, put it in a book. Put it in something. Put it in something that it'll forever be indented in something. It'll be a part of the archives because that's what they want to do. They want to wash stuff away. They want to wipe it away. They don't want you to know what's going on. That's why they don't talk about certain cases. That's why they brush stuff under the rug. The DA got SA charges. Brushed under the rug. Ain't nobody know that's happened, but then he running for re-election, and then he walking stuff over there to the judge and pressing forward. Didn't yeah. I'll say with a true bill, if you do go to court with a true bill, that means that they provided all of the information saying that this is true. This is true to my knowledge. So that means that they got the burden to prove, right?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, the burden is on the state. Now, the criminal investigator got to take that same information to a justice of the peace, first of all. So if that criminal investigator took false information to the justice of the peace, the case ain't no good. Why? Because you lack probable cause. Now, if that information
Well, if we go back, so if we could take some of these lives that these people been sitting on and take these videos and take them and present them to the court and let them hear what these people are saying, the stories are contradicting. The stories do not match because the stories that say happened, if you listen to the story that ran on CNN or whatever it ran on, whatever news station it ran on, they said that story do not match the story that they've been telling around here on social media and different things. Because every time when you're not telling the truth, your story keep changing. But you look at Carmelo's story. Carmelo's story has never changed. It's been the same since he told it. But he's not out here running from social media to social media site, jumping from platform to platform, trying to Do what? He ain't got 4 GoFundMe either. But they want to talk about the one GoFundMe that people took. They took it down. He didn't even get the money from it. But yet they want to talk about what these people doing. They don't want to tell the truth. Like they, for the likes of me, people don't want to tell the truth in nothing. But the truth is steady coming out. Like little bits and pieces is coming out. And it's not looking good for them twins and them other two, whoever them other two was. It's not looking good for them. And then from my understanding, it's some girls involved too. Yeah, the plot is getting thicker and thicker. It's getting thicker and thicker. And they keep opening their mouth. Every time the daddy open his mouth, some more stuff come out. Every time the ego open his mouth, some more stuff come out. It's steady adding up. It's steady adding up. They steady adding more to it.
Okay, so now because you said that much, that Karmelo Anthony gave a statement to the police, right? Okay, them other 3 guys gave a statement too.
Everybody gave statements. Everybody that was involved, the 4, everybody gave statements. So they say there's statements from everybody. And they say the one I think it's Austin, whoever, whichever one, and Hunter and Austin. I don't know which one was unalive and which one is alive, but anyway, one of them is alive and one of them is not. The one that's alive, he gave a statement, and whoever the other 2 people that was in black, they gave a statement too. Everybody there. And they say some more people don't gave statement, but they not even focused on that. They say even teachers gave statements because they said there were adults present. You know, it's a lot of, and then it's a lot of stuff. Any other time, this is a point I want to make, Cornell. None of the adults, you hear nothing from none of the adults. You hear nothing from nobody of authority in any of these videos, anything that you've heard on anything. They just making this poor baby out to be a criminal. They making him out to be terrible. They making him out to be just the worst child to walk the face of the earth. And like he just ain't nothing good about him. And these twins were the perfect kids, and these other children that was there, like they did no wrong.
Okay. So again, let's apply the facts, the law to the facts.
Okay, go ahead.
If the law to the facts show that Karmelo Anthony did not know these individuals.
Did not.
Okay. And that he did not provoke them to do anything.
Did not.
That he had a right to be in the place where he was.
And did.
Okay. And that he himself has not no motive to commit no crime in this particular case and was justified in defending himself, then the statements that were made will show exactly what we're saying. And this is where we got to go back and look at the statements that were made by the individuals who were there. Not the outside individuals, but the same people who were in the case. There's 3 little boys who gave a statement and Mr. Karmelo Anthony. That's where the criminal investigators took his case and sent it to the district attorney's office. And the district attorney's office, if he overlooked the fact that these individuals came to Karmelo Anthony, who did not know them, to commit a crime, and he presented that information to the grand jury, and they came back with an M1 indictment, that indictment ain't no good.
So we see the video. Somebody screenshot the video. They still shot it, and you see a picture of the tent, and you see these 4 individuals in black, and you can see them coming down the thing going into the tent. You can see this. They still shot it, and you can see them lined up walking into the tent. They were going to do something. They was going to remove Anthony. They was going to do something. They had a agenda. They was not. They were walking in single file line. They were headed. They was following their leader, and they were going to do something.
Okay, thank you. So that's what we need right there. That's it. That's the intent. Karmelo Anthony is indicted for doing what? Intentionally and knowingly committing an offense. That's what his indictment say. That's a truth-filled indictment. Now we have to rebuttal that to show that he did not intentionally and knowingly do anything, but was justified, and that these individuals intentionally and knowingly came to commit a crime against him.
Because if you look at all of the paperwork, Anthony had the right to be there. He was registered. He was supposed to be there. He was one of the kids that was supposed to have been competing that day. But one of those twins were not supposed to be there. They were not on the list. Only one of the twins was on the list. So if you want to be technical, one of them didn't have no business being there. And probably the one that was causing all of the wreckage, the one that was causing all of the problems, he's to blame. He's the reason.
Okay. Okay. So what we want to do, we want to beat the case right now. Right now, how we beat the case, we go and get a copy of the statements. Because they got to release them, because they public record information. And we read them. And we see where this individual went to these guys and told them what was going on with Anthony being under this tent. And why he was there. And they confronted him. And because they confronted him now, he was justified. And that's why we ask for this case to be dismissed based upon the lack of probable cause, number one, and number two, based upon insufficient evidence to indict as Karmelo Anthony. That's what we're asking for. And the public can do that and demand for this district attorney to be taken off this case due to judicial impartiality. He's biased, and we want him off of this case.
And the jury pool is already tainted.
Thank you. And we can establish that now. The grand jury was saying it because false information was presented to the grand jury.
Yes.
So thank you.
All right. Well, I thank you for stopping by and sharing with me again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much
All right.
for having me on.
All right.
The caller has hung up.
All right, y'all. All right. Well, that's that, y'all. I hope we got a little more clarification because we've been hearing a lot. So I just wanted to give my friend a chance to give his input. He's right there in Texas. Deal with this behind the walls. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate y'all, and I hope y'all have a great night.